Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your co-host Mike Broadbent. Joining me, the whole gang once again. My
You
co-host
sound a
Richie
little more like upbeat. I know it was bad, but
Craig Epstein, Chris Nalwasky. Guys, a lot of people talk about balance in the universe, the karmic yin and the yang, and we saw it last night from an all-time comeback against Penn State on the road to an all-time collapse versus Minnesota on the road. Rutgers had a 10-point lead with 75 seconds remaining in that game. Somehow, some way, found a way to lose by one at the barn in Minneapolis. Let's do a quick round the horn. Craig, let's start with you. What was your macro view of what happened last night?
So the macro view, it sucked. The micro view, it really sucked. Because just looking at the game in the vacuum, yeah, they were up by 10 with a minute 15 left, and you figure Rutgers has got it, it's just like it's over, but all of a sudden they score 15 points in a minute. Minnesota scored 15 points in a minute on Rutgers. Like, it's just unbelievable. Like, there's almost just no words for it. I mean, when that final three goes in and you're waiting and you're sitting there watching the referees take 10 minutes to try and figure out whether the shot was good or not when you could clearly see it was good. I guess they were just so haunted by that Ohio State game that they were like, okay, we got to triple check and, do all this stuff. But I mean, it was just honestly like from a Rutgers fan's perspective, it was just torturous because, I mean, you thought you had the win. You thought you're locking up a third straight trip to the big dance. But now, I hate to say it, but you fall out of the bubble. Like, now you've left your tournament lives into the hands of the selection committee. I guess you still have the Northwestern game to try and win, and if you win that game, I think you're in. But honestly, like, if you couldn't beat Minnesota, like, why do I think you're going to beat Northwestern, even if the game's at home?
Chris, what about you?
Yeah, so, like, I was obviously in charge of the recap, and then I also wrote a sidebar, a positive sidebar on the most road wins in Big Ten history for Rutgers. I had to, honestly, very upset that I had to scrap the whole thing.
Yeah, finger hovering over the submit button.
Yeah, so I was kind of upset about that. But, there was a minute 15 left. They're up by 10. And, the whole game, Rutgers could never kind of, like, pull away.
Yeah.
Like, Minnesota always had, like, a little response, but obviously, Rutgers was kind of in control of the whole game until like the last couple of seconds, and like it was just absurd. Like, I was stunned, I was shocked. Like, there was so many plays in the last minute that went completely wrong. It was so uncharacteristic of Rutgers there, and obviously, it kind of started to me when like Caleb kind of got hurt a little bit. He kind of fell hard there. If he maybe went for the layup, it would have been different than, obviously he went for the dunk. Then he missed the free throw when they were up by 2. And then, So, I mean, they played well offensively, like compared to what they did, the last couple of games. But it's obviously Minnesota, and, they're not the best defensive team. But I mean, I did warn people on the board that this was going to be a different game than the Minnesota team that played, the first time. But still, I mean, I thought they would have got the job done, and they did. I mean, they were up by 14 at one point in the game. Then they were up by 10 with a minute left. I mean, I honestly, I didn't see this coming. I was getting so many texts by so many people after the game. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, and then obviously now the Wisconsin win is now a quad 2 win. So now Rutgers dips under 500 in quad 1 wins. So I really don't know what's going to happen, but I'll pass on to Richie here.
15 points in the final minute 15. This team scored 15 points. This 7, now 8-win team scored 15 points in the final minute 15. This Minnesota team scored fucking 12 in the first half against Purdue this year. And they scored 15 on one of the best defenses in college basketball in the final minute 15. That, like, holy shit, man. Like, there's so many things that went wrong there. I wrote them down, so I'm going to go list them real quick. Late game, Andre Hyatt. You got the ball right there. There's no one near you. Turn around and dribble. Or at
Yeah,
least do a
4
pivot. Use
Minnesota
your
defenders
pivot.
behind him. He doesn't even turn around to try and bring the ball up court. Still passes back.
Yeah, that was brutal. All you had to do was just turn around and dribble, and you win the game. That's it. Game over.
Because there's 15 seconds left at that point. He could
Yeah,
run around
dribble
basically like
around.
a streaker on the court for at least 5 seconds. Yeah.
Number 2, Paul. What the hell was that pass to Caleb across the court? Stop throwing lollipops. You have the ball. It's just one-on-one, I'm pretty sure, when it was. And all you had to do was just dribble a little bit, let them foul you. You're a pretty decent free throw shooter. You go to the line. You don't have to force it to Caleb across court, force a turnover, and then all of a sudden they hit a 3 ball. And it's like, oh, shit. All right, well, fuck. Then Caleb's free throw shooting late game has been abysmal. Like, I know, like, he's great all game, and then it seems like at the end of the game it's just a sell. Like, and it's just that miss that changed the entire game. You hit that free throw, and worst comes to worst, it's a tie.
Yeah, against Penn State, he could have put him up 4 points, but he missed the front end of the 1-and-1. Against Ohio State, he missed the front end of the 1-and-1 to allow Ohio State to hit that 3.
Late
three
game
that shouldn't have
sells,
happened.
like-
Yeah.
And then the whole defense on the last play, that inbounds, like no one covers the inbounder. They just get wide open. Cam made an attempt on the 3-point to defend the 3-point. He just pump faked, and obviously Cam went flying. Also, that's like rule number 1: you never jump. But
Yep.
Holy shit, that was just a bad sequence of events over the last like minute left, and it was just absolutely brutal. And I think
I just don't see how you could allow Cam to get matched up with Jameson Battle there either. Jameson Battle's 6'7". Like, why don't you have? He's been hot like all night. Why don't he? Like, before that shot, he was 5 for 12 from 3. Why don't you have Caleb on him? It's clear that they want to get him the ball. He's been on fire. He hit that weird. Like, every shot he hit in the last minute 15, and it might have only been 2, were just crazy shots.
Mm-hmm. This team, I just don't. I like overall, it's just been shit since Mag left left for the injury. Like, Indiana lost, Illinois lost, Nebraska lost, Wisconsin. Jesus Christ, that was brutal. That was close. Michigan blown out. Penn State, it almost looked like you were going to lose that one because you got shit on in the first half. And then they come back, luckily. But then you give up 75 to Minnesota. We didn't even, like, I know everyone wants to talk about that last minute and a half, or minute 15, but 75 to an 8-win program? It's disgusting. Yeah. Like, it just,
and Richie,
whole, like,
you
what?
could make
What's
the,
up?
and I, you could make the case. Sorry, you could make the case, if not for a last like defensive stop and a miracle comeback, Rutgers would be 0-7 without Mag. 0-7, and I hate to take away stuff that they've accomplished, but when you're 2-5 in that span, like I kind of have to.
No, fair enough. Like I didn't want to say it, but you said it, so I feel better now. Yeah, like it's really bad. Like things are, and you can't convince me. Like, don't get me wrong, Mag's a great player. He's phenomenal. He fit this lineup perfectly, but you can't just fall off a cliff after you lose him.
Yep.
Pun intended.
Yep. So Rutgers has allowed 75 plus points 4 times all season, twice since Mag has left in the last 7 games. The only other 2 times were both against Iowa, and Iowa just seems to have Rutgers' number. So every other team before Mag got hurt, other than Iowa, was under 75, and most of them were well under 75. It's a different team. I think it comes down to a mental thing for part of it, because these guys now, like Pike has said, like these guys are like worn out, they're tired. They played 6 of their last 8 away from Jersey Mike's, which I think is a bit of a cop out. I think they're just like mentally exhausted. Because they're also physically exhausted. Like they know that they're not the best offensive team. Mag was, one of their better players, and they were playing defense to win games, sort of like how Rutgers football was trying to win games this year, just playing defense. And you can't really do that in college basketball, but that's what they were doing for most of the season. And then when you lose one of your best defenders, who's an efficient offensive player, and then you have to play a bunch of bench guys who weren't really ready to play, probably that's what's going to happen, because you've seen frustrations boil over. It's because guys don't really necessarily know, not that they don't know what they're supposed to be doing, but they're not in the right positions on defense. They're not, taking the ball and putting it like right up when you're underneath the basket. Like there's just so many things that have gone wrong for this team, and they're not doing things to actively correct it or to get themselves in the right headspace. And for how much that they talk about, Dave Anderson, like the mindset of winning, all that stuff, like a lot of these guys collapse in really crucial moments this season. So it's been tough to watch.
Yeah, and also, Rutgers kind of squandered a really good performance by Cliff last night.
Oh my God, yeah. Best game of the
Yeah,
season for him
he had
offensively.
22 points, 9 of 15 shooting, and they weren't even all dunks either. Like he was
Yeah.
making, his hook shots and everything. He had 11 rebounds, like 4 blocks, I think it was. And Rutgers really kind of dominated Minnesota on like almost every statistic, right? I mean, they made more free throws. They made they ended up having 2 more turnovers, but that was probably the last couple seconds there. They out rebounded them by 9. They had more offensive rebounds. They had way more second chance points, 10 more points in the paint, and they had 6 blocks, 7 steals, 19 assists. They led for like 38 minutes of the game. They was tied like once in the game. And then obviously Minnesota's only lead, I think, was at the very end. Like, so, I mean, Rutgers definitely squandered the game here, obviously, that we all know. But
And I saw the "Are You Screw Eyes" tweet something kind of like this, and then the thought kind of crossed my mind that that game yesterday could almost be used as like a riddle going forward. A team that was winning for 0 minutes and 0 seconds won the game. Like, how's that possible?
Yeah. It was unbelievable, and I do want to talk about Cliff because we've been down on him for a lot of the season offensively, and this game was like they had a game plan: get it into Cliff, let him work, because they weren't doubling Cliff. It was pretty ridiculous that they were just allowing the ball to get into Cliff, sometimes on freshman backup centers, and Cliff was just dominating them. Like he was hitting a lot of his different around the rim moves. He obviously had a bunch of dunks, but you saw him hit that 12-footer that he's had trouble with all season. He had that like weird up around, reverse layup thing he likes to do where he doesn't like to use the backboard. He just throws it like straight up in the air. Cliff had his best game of the season offensively, in my opinion. If we're being real though, like this vaunted 3-point defense that Rutgers has, that's the reason we lost last night. They shot 46% from 3 on high volume on 24 attempts. Like to not close out on all the 3-point shooters they had late in the game. Like that's why Pike said he was disappointed in his defense, because like these guys know what they're supposed to be doing and he trusts them, but they just had a mental collapse. That's all there is to it. These guys didn't really respect their opponent when they were just it was kind of like when you're holding your little brother down with like one arm and they're flailing around and you're like, you're not going to get up. You're not going to get, and eventually they do. And then they hit you in the nuts. I don't know how many of you guys have younger siblings, but like when you're the older sibling, you think you got them pinned down. You've had them pinned down. They're screaming for mom for 10, 15 minutes. And then the second you look at the TV because you hear something, he gets up and boom, you got a shattered pair of testicles. And that's what Rutgers had last night. They thought they had little brother held down and they didn't take it seriously over the 75 seconds. Like their coach was pressing, they were fouling, like they were still trying to win that game. And I don't think Rutgers really took them that seriously, despite the fact that we were winning, despite the fact that they were clearly trying to win. Like they had nothing to lose. Like a team that has nothing to lose is going to go for the 3-pointer in that situation versus the 2. It's the same concept like the Texans had last game of the season. They got nothing to play for. Why are we going to send this game to overtime? Let's go for 2 here. We're going to win this. That's what they were going for. Rutgers should have known that. It was just a coaching calamity on top of players just not respecting their opponent. They deserve to lose that game with how they closed it out. I'm so disappointed, but that's what you get for not respecting an opponent.
They might have just saved Ben Johnson's job too. Like that man was on the hottest of hot seats, it seemed like, and then all of a sudden, like this win for him is huge. Like I don't think people realize like how bad this fucking team was. This program was in the dumpster, the gutter. One Big Ten win going into this game.
Yeah,
we're at the end of the season.
It's like what Rutgers was like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I believe Rutgers at the end of the game they still had a timeout to use, and honestly, it's like
Yep.
I mean, I think just following the putback that puts them within 2, within 1. I got to use a timeout there. These guys, you could see they just like mentally like just shot. Like I feel like Pike had to call in the troops and just kind of get them like mentally back into it, because by that point it was like I don't want to say that you knew it was going to happen, but like you could envision it.
Yeah, by 35.
That Jaden Henley put back. Like Paul didn't even try and box out that guy, and he was just able to sky up and put it back. There was just so little effort by all these guys late in the game. It's unbelievable.
And also, I mean, I'm trying not to scream because I don't want to wake anybody up, but I mean, you have a 90+% free throw shooter on your team. I understand he missed one and that kind of ended up screwing you, but still, at the end of the day, in crunch time situations, Cam Spencer is the guy I trust, shooting the free throws. You gotta give him the ball in those situations. Like, that's just the way it is. And I think part of them is kind of scared. The fact that, okay, if you give him the ball in the backcourt, they're going to trap him, and he's not really fast enough or athletic enough to kind of break it. So he's going to have to pass it off, and then they're going to foul that person. Or they give it to somebody else who tries to get the ball to Cam, but they're just going to foul that person immediately because, I mean, like we talked about before, Caleb's free throw shooting at the end of these games has just been brutal. I mean, to me,
in fairness,
this is why you got Cam Spencer. It's one of the reasons.
They were trying to get it to Cam. 3 of the 4 free throw scenarios late in the game went to Cam. He made 5 of the 6 free throws that he attempted there. So it's not like they weren't trying. It's just sometimes they, play good defense and you have to pass it away.
But then there was that one time they gave it to Paul in a horrible spot. They knock it out of his hands, hits his wrist or elbow, and then it goes out of bounds. Minnesota ball. It's like, why are you giving the ball to Paul in the worst possible spot on the court? It just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, yeah, that's on the inbounder and on Paul though. Like, if you can't run into the corner and expect anything to happen there. Like, they're going to give you that for a reason. It's kind of like putting you into a trap. And as the inbound passer, we have a timeout. If there's no one open, call the timeout. You have I'm sure he has the latitude to do that. I'm sure Pike has said, if there's not somebody there, count to 4, call timeout.
Or Paul calls a timeout.
Or somebody calls a timeout.
And then also, we saw Derek Simpson kind of take the game over against Penn State. He only had 13 minutes in this game. And he did well when he was in. He had 4 points and 2 rebounds and assists in the limited minutes he was in the game. Like, he drove to the hoop and created something. And then, Pike has kind of been weird with his minutes this season. Like, he'll have good games and then won't play for a while at all. So, I mean, his minutes definitely need to go up because I mean, we talked about Paul McKee before we started recording. And he's been kind of in his own head recently. So I think you have to get the ball to Derek more and have him play more in this last game for sure.
Yeah, every one of our starters yesterday played 32+ minutes. So that means all of them played at least 80% of that game. Maybe that's why they're so worn down at the game because this isn't typical. Pike barely ever plays the starters for that much. I don't know what happened there. Out of a possible 200 minutes for Rutgers, the starters played 170 of them. So that's 85% of the total minutes for Rutgers. I don't know why you do that this late in the game. It's this late in the season, but
yeah. And then also we've seen Cam Spencer had 16 points in the first half. He was he started out 5 for 5. He was 6 for 7, I think. By the time halftime rolled around, and then I don't know if Minnesota played just better defense in the second half, but Minnesota's not a good defensive team in general, and they never went back to him in the second half. I know we talked about them getting the ball to Cliff more, but you also still had Cam who was on fire in the first half, and he barely shot the ball again after that. He made his free throws, and that was basically it. So, I mean, I was shocked about that. And they also did the same thing in the Wisconsin game. He was really all their offense in the first half, and then they didn't go back to him in the second half. So, if you have someone like that, let him shoot the ball. I don't know.
So, piggybacking on the Paul thing, he's 9 of 32 in his past 5 games. I know he's not an offensive player, but geez, right. That's rough. And he's having pretty big turnover games. He had 2 turnovers, 2 turnovers.
How many
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 turnovers and 12, 13, 16, 20, 28 assists because that
Oh, he had 12, right?
He had 12 against Nebraska. And in the loss, too, of course.
Yeah.
I also kind of want to point something out is this offense still looks disjointed. A lot of that chest middle stuff from the end of Penn State, they didn't really run anything that was repeatable seemingly against Minnesota. How many shot clock violations did we have last night? It was at least 3 by my count. And there was plenty of times where we tried to put up a junk shot with 5 seconds left. Paul keeps getting blocked by these shorter guards. I don't know if he's got if his legs are like worn out or something, but he doesn't seem like he can elevate like he used to be able to. Like he had a block on a layup, he had a block on a floater. Like he's not getting clean shots up either. It's like he totally airballed a 3 late in the game that he was wide open for. He bricked another from the corner late in the game. Like he's just, I hate to pick on Paul, but man, he is really playing poorly.
It's rough. Now, I don't know if we want to move on to this, but I think they're still in. I'll be optimistic here. I really think they are still in.
I do too. I think ESPN they're notoriously bad with like any of this predictive shit.
You mean Lenardi's not good at his job? Well, yes, he's not good at it. He's ranked like number 130 in the bracketologist thing, like the rankings. Like he's not good. And I'm going to pick on that guy, the other guy in a second. We'll pick on him later. But you guys all know who I'm talking about. The guy who I have a better haircut than. Jerry, I'm just going to get into it real quick. Jerry fucking Palm, man. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
What is wrong with you? Like, I get it. You're not a Rutgers fan. You don't even like Rutgers. You hate that the Big Ten had at Rutgers. But man, oh man, like you had them 11 seed before this game. Like you had them like first 4, like it's borderline first 4 in or last 4 in, whatever.
I think after this game, Jerry Palm has them playing in the local YMCA. Honestly,
fuck Jerry Palm. Guy's such a dickhead.
Let me. I like I've said this before. I'd rather be an 11 seed than an 8 seed in this field because there's absolutely big brain.
All part of the plan.
All part of, like I said, all part of the plan. So like if we have to play Kansas, Houston, not Baylor, Kansas, Houston, or UCLA, or what was the other like top team? I don't know why
Purdue?
I'm blanking on this right now. Not Purdue.
Oh, Alabama.
Like we're not beating.
They got a great shooter.
Oh my god.
Oh, geez.
Sorry. Done.
Like we're going to get blown up by 20 points in those games. But, playing the right 6 seed and the right 3 seed, we could move on. That's you got to look at this from like, how does this, what realistic path do we have to make it past these teams? As an 8 or 9 seed, we're not beating a 1 seed in the second round. I'm sorry. It's just not happening. We don't have, like, it's different when you're like the 8 seed who's, plays in the WAC. And like your whole offense is like 3-pointers, and sometimes you score 90 points, sometimes you score 60. Like that's not our team. We got a narrow band of what we can do. It has to be we shut the team down defensively, and then we make a couple like advantageous, like not lucky shots, but clutch shots. Like that's how we win big games. We don't win them because we keep up with teams offensively. At least not this year. So there's no way we're keeping up with Kansas.
I hate to.
Teams.
I hate to be the bad guy. I hate to burst bubbles here, but I mean the way this team, burst bubbles. But yeah, thank you. I'll be here all week. But I mean the way this team is playing right now, they're not beating anybody in March. I hate to say it, like they couldn't beat Minnesota. Like I hate being the bad guy, but it's just like any team you're playing in March is going to be a good team, at least a good team. If not a really good team, especially if you're an 11 seed, because you're facing 5 seed? No, 5, 6, whatever.
6.
Okay, 6. Yes, you're facing a really good team, especially if they're a 6 seed. So it's like, is this team really going to beat a 6 seed? Like, I don't know. I know it's all matchup dependent, but just the way
a lot of people got on our case for being negative after Mag left and some of these performances, but like we're just being realistic here. Like I was so high on this team until the beginning of February. When Mag got hurt, like after the Michigan State game, I was like, we still got this. Like we still got a lot of good players. But those next 3 performances, like we were just like they don't seem that big of like losses. Like 6 points at Indiana, 9 points at Illinois, 10 points at home against Nebraska was a big loss. But like those games we were never really in. Like those are games that we found a way to like limp along. But this team has not looked the same for the last month. And it's because they're not the same. It's a different construction of players we're playing, and it's different results we're seeing. Like we are what our record says we are right now, guys. We're 2-5 in our last 7. You don't want to limp into March. Like typically when you limp into March, you go behind the woodshed and you get taken care of. Like
yeah,
I really hope we still make the tournament, but it's a tough look right now.
Yeah, I was listening to Austin Johnson's and Geo Baker's podcast this week. they talked to Brad Wachtel, who's one of the best bracketologists, and he was saying like they take injuries into account, and they also take injuries to account, like a Moat Mag, and take into account how they do after he doesn't play. And obviously Rutgers, as we've all been talking about, has not done well at all since he's gone down, and they take that into consideration. Like, if they and like everyone's been saying, if they're not going to beat Minnesota, how are they going to beat somebody in the NCAA tournament? And they also think about that. Like, you could beat Purdue when you have everybody in your lineup, but you can't beat anybody now. Like, I mean, they still do have a lot of really good wins, and their net's in obviously good shape. Their Campon and everything is in good shape. But it's just like how they've played lately is just not like a good look. Like, you still have, I guess, the eye test. I'm sure there's some kind of eye test for the guys, putting together the bracket. But I mean, they haven't done well since the beginning of February. But they still have good wins in the net and everything. All the metrics are good, but they just played extremely poorly, and you can't really expect much. You can't expect much right now.
Yeah, our net right now is the lowest it's been since December 22nd. So our net when Mag went out was 19th. It has dropped to 38th.
38, yeah.
In the last month.
Here's the thing. I'm going to pop this up real quick. If I could figure out which window it is. Nope, of course. Entire screen. There we go. Here's the left side is last season. Somehow they got in at the net of 80. We won't talk about that one, but holy shit. The good news is you don't have a quad 4 loss, so that's huge. The bad news is you got 4 quad 3 losses.
Yep.
That's brutal. Now
they're below 500 in quad 1 now because Wisconsin went out quad 2.
That's where it's tough. The 7-7 is obviously nice last year. You beat Purdue twice, beat Iowa twice. Am I reading that right? Yeah, I guess they did. Holy shit. They beat Illinois. It's the majority of the same team over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, I read that wrong. Purdue once, Iowa once, Illinois once, but whatever. It's just, I'm looking now. Like, I still think they're in just because the bubble's so bad and they're better in almost every statistic and they don't have that quad 4 loss technically. But the fact that they have so many quad 3 losses is tough. But they're still in. I still think they're in. I think right now it's 10 seed /11. So I think you're close to like that first 4 game in Dayton. But you lose to Northwestern. It's probably going to push towards that Dayton. You beat the first team of whatever round, the first round of the Big Ten you play, then you're probably out of Dayton again. So I think end of the day, as long as they win that first, it doesn't matter what happens on Sunday because I don't think they're winning. So I'm just counting that as a loss right now. If you lose that and win that first round, I think you're in, like in, not Dayton in.
Like I don't think the committee really takes into account the tournaments really. The Big Ten tournament final ends like half hour before the selection show starts. Like they're done with the brackets.
Yes.
Brad Wachtel on
That's
Aaron
what I was
Brighton's
gonna say.
podcast mentioned that how basically like what happens the last 2 days isn't really taken into account unless it's a scenario where you have to win to get in. So if you're an 8 seed in the A10 tournament and you're facing the 1 seed who's going to be an at-large regardless, like that's when it takes into account like winning the tournament or not. Otherwise, it doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I look at it from like 2 different perspectives. One is like the analytical like aspect of it, where it's like, yeah, it's very similar to last season. It's almost like Bizarro last season, where it's like your last season wins, the quality of wins last season outweighed your quality of losses. Now it's starting to feel like this season the quality of losses is starting to outweigh the quality of wins. But at the same time, yeah, I do think Rutgers is still in at this point because I think we can agree going into this game they were an 8 seed. That's where DeCourcy had them. And that's where Wachtel had him, and they're pretty dependable guys. So let's just say they went in yesterday as an 8 seed. I don't think this loss to Minnesota, you go from an 8 seed to just out of the tournament. I don't think that's like possible. Now, I think we can agree that they probably fall, like you said, to an 11 seed, which, yeah, that is what it is. You lose to Northwestern. I mean, that's not a terrible loss, even though it's at home. Like, but maybe you fall 11. Let's just say you fall to a 12 seed. Like, to me, that's kind of that spot where it is. And like you said, I think they don't take much of the Big Ten tournament into account. Unless Rutgers goes on some type of run, then you can boost your thing, but if they were to lose, like I don't think it plays that role. So I guess from an analytical standpoint, could you see them going into the tournament as a 12 seed? Yes. Also, Dayton is still on the table once again, amazingly, which me and Chris kind of shudder at that thought, but
I'm not going back there. As nice as it was, as nice as I thought everything was very professional. I'm not making that.
Yeah, 10-hour drive, not the best, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, like you said, Chris, that this team since MAGA has gone down has kind of fallen apart. And if you want to look at from more of like I guess an emotional human eye test sort of way, yeah, they've fallen apart since MAG's gone out. I mean, you just lost to this Minnesota. I mean, does this look like a team to you they might look at it, whereas I think they looked at last year's team where it's like, yeah, they don't have the best resume, but could they win it maybe a game or maybe even two and go on a little bit of a run? You could kind of envision it. This team, I can't envision it. I mean, this team to me right now just screams first round exit. I mean, the offense is just, like you said, the offense is, they don't play complementary basketball because yesterday the offense was actually playing, decently well. It scored 74 points, but then the defense fell apart. So to me, it's like, if you want to look at it from the analytical standpoint, yes, I can see Rutgers getting into this game. If you want to look at it from the eye test standpoint, I could see them. They've given them basically enough reason to say, sorry, tough luck. Like we gave you the break last year. And it's just, to me, it's just so unpredictable and so tough to kind of gauge now that like I've kind of given up at this point, honestly. I'll be honest.
So they have a thing on bracketologist.com. I'm sharing my screen again just because it's so convenient. You can compare Rutgers' resume to it's obviously the last four in and first four out. Obviously, it doesn't show one because you can only do 8. But look at their record compared to like every other bubble team. Like these two are kind of similar, actually. But I still think they have a better record than the majority of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who's playing? Who is that? Texas? Why are you playing 9 quad 4 games in the Big 12? That's just bad. But regardless, I still think Rutgers gets in. I know it's and it. You know what kind of helps them too is the fact that everyone likes to overrate the Big 10 a little bit in the net rankings, and so.
But could this be the year where they say enough with that? I mean, I don't know. Probably not because
I don't think so.
Big 10 is kind of a cash cow. So
there you go. That's all that matters. But I still think they're in. I mean. Like I said before, it depends now what seed they're going to get. I don't know. But you lose that first game of the Big Ten tournament. I know they, like even Chris said, they don't try to count it as much, but that first round is going to count a lot, especially for bubble teams. For bubble teams.
Once you get to, the later part.
Yeah, the bubble teams.
Right now, who are they scheduled to play? And can that change?
I don't know. There's 4 scenarios.
Yeah, everything can change now.
Yeah, what did Richie say before this? Is 128 different scenarios for this tournament with every team having one game left?
Yeah, for the final 128 scenarios for the Big Ten tournament right here from Matt MJ Hackman on Twitter.
I mean, double bye is now out of the question for Rutgers. I just kind of wanted to make that clear in case anybody had any sort of hope. Again, I hate to be the bad guy, but double bye.
Yeah, fuck you, Craig. Who? I don't even know what the bracket looks like. Who do they play?
If the tournament started today, Rutgers would be the 9 seed. They would play, drum roll please, the 8-seeded Michigan State Spartans in the second round of the tournament, who have this irrational thirst for Scarlet Knight blood right now because Rutgers wouldn't move a game to accommodate them. There was a lot of belly aching about a game that the game shouldn't have been played. Like they should have just canceled the game. Like you can't expect the entire league to change their schedule in the last week to accommodate a game that doesn't mean anything. Like, we just saw what happens when you go into Minnesota late in the season. Why would they want to do that? Just cancel the game. It is a terrible, awful situation. Just cancel it. Chris had to pop off, so you'll be hearing him the rest of the time. But yeah, also, that's who Rutgers would be scheduled to play right now.
It's probably the last head coach you want to face in March, too.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, you don't face Izzo's team in March, like, at all. I don't care how bad he is, how bad the team is record-wise. They're just dangerous.
Yep.
This is, interesting. It's rough.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
I hope we were a little positive at least when we talked about this team, but I mean, last night was just probably the biggest gut punch of the
It's
entire
probably
season.
the worst loss of the Pikel era, if you really think about it.
Lafayette.
Yeah, the opening of last
from
year
that,
was worse.
from the perspective of like quality of loss, yeah, I guess Lafayette's the worst, but like kicking the nuts wise, I think this is the worst. I think this is. I mean, I saw people were talking about the Wieskamp game, the game against Iowa, but to me, like as bad of a loss as that is, what did you, in the grand scheme of things, what did they actually lose? Like they weren't going to the tournament that year.
Yeah, that was just a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
That had no repercussions, like you said.
Exactly.
There was no stakes to that. That was just a game that Rutgers almost stole.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like we're still talking about it. Like what, 5 years later, or 4 years later, and it's like I understand. Like it's a heartbreaker. I mean, I was there for that. I mean, I remember the building when that unbelievable shot went in. Yeah, it was bad. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, like Rutgers wasn't going anywhere that year, so. This loss, I mean, could end up screwing you real in the long run. I mean, it's just like crazy. And then the only other loss I can think of was the Penn State a couple of years ago. I think it was it 2020? I forget. But that Penn State when people got mad because they thought it was a moving screen, opened up the Penn State shooter who hit the go-ahead shot with like a couple seconds left, which could have screwed you, but Rutgers ended up bouncing back and go to the tournament. So to me, what was that?
The true screw job this season was the Ohio State game. Like, you win that game, that's another quad one win on your resume. This resume is put to bed. We're 19-11, 11-8 in the Big Ten. We're in going away. But because that game screwed us over, like we had plenty of time to make up for it. Don't get me wrong. This isn't like, it's like a bad hold in the second quarter of a football game that, took a touchdown back and then he had to punt on that drive. Like, we could have made up for this, but in hindsight, we get that additional quad one win. This resume is airtight.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's really nothing else to be said. It's such a brutal, and so like Chris said before, I got so many texts after, they're like, yo, and I'm like, fuck you. You didn't watch the game.
Yeah.
I've been bagging on my friends because they're all front runners. They're Duke fans, or UNC fans, or Seton Hall fans. And the Seton Hall fans and UNC fans, I've been fucking ripping into.
Mm-hmm.
Been like, yeah, bubble, buddy. How's it going? Like, Seton Hall's not even there anymore? Oh, no, that stinks. Like,
yeah, don't worry, guys. If you don't get in the NIT, there's still the CBI. There's still a tournament out there for you.
Is that still around?
I don't know.
But yeah, that was a kick in the balls last night. That was rough. That was rough to see.
And the weirdest part was, like, I had a two-leg parlay last night for the game. It was the over, which was 127, and then Rutgers minus 8.5. And even with 30 seconds left in the game, I was texting you guys. I was like, all right, if Cam hits both these free throws, the parlay's still alive, but it's on life support. This is with 30 seconds left. I still thought I was going to hit a parlay where Rutgers needed to win by 9. Cam misses the one free throw and puts them up 6, I believe. I was like, all right, the parlay is officially dead. I had no scenario in my mind, even at 30 seconds left, that Rutgers was going to lose this game. That's what's so surreal about this, is that, like, this went – it was like an avalanche. Like, you think you're skiing down the slopes and, like, oh, I've been at this mountain before, we're good. And then suddenly a massive ice sheet, like, just breaks off on top of you and you're totally buried. You don't know what the fuck happened to you. That's – I can't talk about this game anymore.
This was a bigger whiplash than the Brooklyn Nets season.
All right, Craig. All right, relax.
All right, what else? What else is there to cover here? Is there anything about this game you guys wanted to mention?
Do you want me to rile people up right now? I could do it. With
speculation?
No, not speculation. I can rile people up. Just because. I don't even care.
What's the topic?
No. This is still hoops. I got a DM from a certain someone this morning. He said, hey, what's up, man? Just woke up and saw this. 1 minute left in the game. Damn, what happened? Take a guess. Just take a guess.
They have the recap on ESPN.com.
They're related to a certain transfer NBA declaree.
NBA declaree?
I think I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Haven't heard from him
Can you give
since he declared, but
Can you give initials?
It's a relative of him.
Can you give the initials of?
I think it's pretty obvious.
Oh, not to Mike.
Which player declared for the NBA, and we'll go with recently for Rutgers.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Relative of, and I'm like, dude, you're really gonna DM me this like now? I haven't heard from you since I don't know. Let's go back to the last message. November 2021 when you declared, or 2022, whatever it was.
Damn.
Yeah, like, okay, cool. Like, what? That's all I gotta say. That's gonna rile some people up. I think you guys can guess, but anyway, let's move on to football recruiting.
Yeah, let's go to a happy topic like football recruiting.
God.
Richie, what kind of good news do you have in your basket for us today?
I got some good news. I got some visitors. Ryan Ward and Aiden Black visited campus yesterday. Two of the Northeast top-ranked tight ends. Neither has an offer from Rutgers currently. I don't know if either are going to get an offer because they're still aiming pretty high, it seems like. They got some other guys coming, but they do have couple big-name kids coming to campus. Multiple Power 5 offers for most of these guys, but I'm just going to run down the list. Wide receiver Sage Claudius and Jack Hines are both out of Connecticut. Offensive lineman Jack Hines. I like both of them a lot. I think Jack Hines is starting to favor Rutgers, so keep an eye out there. Isaiah Crumpler, they just offered like a week ago, is already scheduled to visit the campus. North Carolina kid. He doesn't have a ton of offers. He's only got Charlotte and East Carolina and Rutgers, but it sounds like if Rutgers wants to lock this one up, they could kind of get it done relatively quickly. They don't have a wide receiver in this class. He's a little he's kind of in the middle range. He's not tall. He's not short. I think he's 6'1", 170, something like that. Decent kid. I'd keep an eye out there. Benjamin Blackburn. He's only 5.5 for us, and I think that's criminal. He's from down in Columbus High School in Florida. Anytime a Florida kid comes up, you got to keep an eye on him because there's always a chance for a quick commitment there. He's really good. And then there's just a lot of good name. Like Cameron Miller's coming up from Winslow. St. Thomas More sending a couple other dudes in Jordan Houston and Adam Shovlin. Adam Shovlin's got like 10, 12 Power 5 or maybe eight Power 5 offers. I read that wrong. He's going to be good.
Interesting nugget about Isaiah Crumpler. Last name, I only heard it said one time. That was Algie Crumpler. Turns out that is Algie Crumpler's nephew. The former tight end for the Falcons in the NFL.
There you go. He's got the NFL bloodlines too, and make it happen. I think he's a good prospect too. I think more teams are sleeping on him. I know
his dad and grandfather also played in the NFL.
There you go. I know a lot of teams are just like slowly looking more into him. North Carolina sometimes has I don't even know how to describe it. Sometimes they have like kids that just fall under the radar. So he's someone to watch. Willie Love.
Camden kid, right?
Yeah. East Side.
Willie
Camden,
visit Rutgers?
He will be here this weekend.
Oh, hell yeah.
And it sounds like Rutgers is near the top there from what I'm hearing. Now, he's a weird kind of build. He's a little bit of a tweener. He's 6'4", 210. He plays DB. I think he's a solid DB, but at 6'4", 210, I think you kind of just got to wake up a little bit and be like, hey, you're a linebacker.
What's his speed like?
It's not bad.
Well, that's
it's okay.
Why he's a tweener.
Yeah,
he could stick at safety if he had good speed. But.
Yeah, so I like him. I like him at DB right now, but I think when he fills out and adds even 10 pounds, I think he's a linebacker full and full. And that's why a lot of teams kind of are have him in that warm spot for their recruitment. But it sounds like Rutgers is going to push super heavily. He's been to campus 4 times since last January, so this will be his fifth time since June or July last year. So he's been to campus a bunch. Demir Shaw is doing a lot of work there, and to get into Camden and the East Side High School, it would be huge for Rutgers. So I'd keep a close eye on that one. I don't think he's ready to commit yet, but again, I don't know if there's going to be any commitments this weekend, but there's just a lot of big names. Kamar Archie's coming back up, and that kid's an absolute freak. I don't know how else to define him. He's just massive. He's huge. He's quick. He's got 15 offers. I think they're all Power 5. Hunt School too connection. So Rutgers is good. Dead period's over. Football's back. kind of, sort of. Football won't start again until late March, and then right after the pro day, which is the 26th, 28th, something like that. 28th, I believe. So, fun couple of weeks ahead between March Madness, hopefully, and football. Football's coming. That's all I got.
Yeah, exciting time. There's some, we'll be in the tournament. There's spring sports going on. We do have a scheduled interview with, I'm not going to say what college he's the athletic director for, but he's the athletic director for a prominent college in the area.
Yes, we're going to Seton Hall day, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll be talking to him again.
It's Ryder.
Yeah, we'll give if you're on the boards, we'll give you guys the opportunity to submit questions, and we'll try and take some of them and take the essence of them out, or ask them directly. It's obviously going to be some questions that you can't ask because
hey Pat, why did you drink that beer?
Yeah, you want to maintain a good relationship, and you can't be asking these.
When's the alley coming back?
Yeah, we're not fucking 60 Minutes here, guys. We're not going to be asking him these hard-hitting fucking investigative journalism questions. So,
how much did you invest in? Why'd you choose basketball over football facilities? And it's like, no, dude, like, stop.
So we got that coming in a couple weeks. So stay tuned to your podcast feeds. I'm not going to say who it is, but I'm working on another big interview of somebody who used to play for Rutgers who might have won a Super Bowl recently. So that's another teaser. I'll let you know if that ends up happening. But there's a reason why we don't like to tease these guys, because like it makes both us and the interviewee look bad if they don't end up happening. And we're not trying to make anybody look bad. Life happens. We've probably had 4 times as many interviews lined up to be done than the ones we've actually done, because sometimes they just don't work out. Life happens. People flake out. Richie and I, we could rattle off some names, but we're not going to do it. It's just, it happens sometimes. But we are actively always trying to work on interviews. I don't want you guys to think we're not trying out here, but it doesn't always work. But we've gone longer than I thought we would, so I think it is time to call it for today. For me and the guys, this has been another edition of the Night Report Podcast. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the YouTube page. Give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcasting app. It really helps us get new listeners. Growing a lot. We'd like to continue growing. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Tell somebody you don't even like. Just tell people. But for me and the rest of the guys, yeah. Hey, you parallel parking on the street. Yeah.
Night Report Podcast.
Listen to the Night Report.
Check it out.
It's on Apple and every podcasting app. All right. I'm getting a little loopy. It's been another edition of the Night Report Podcast. Signing off.